Every day, people walk into hospitals looking for care. And every day, too many of them walk out feeling unseen, unheard, and unsafe. Not because doctors don't care, not because nurses lack compassion, but because the culture they work in is broken. We've built systems that reward speed over humanity, compliance over courage, and efficiency over empathy. We measure success in minutes saved, beds turned, and forms completed, while ignoring the silent cost paid by patients, families, and the people who wear the scrubs. In a broken culture, good people are forced to make bad decisions. They stop speaking up. They stop trusting the system. And eventually, they stop believing their work truly matters. Burnout isn't a personal failure. It's a cultural warning sign. Medical errors aren't just technical mistakes. They're cultural consequences. And patient distrust isn't accidental. It's what happens when care becomes transactional. Healthcare doesn't collapse because of lack of knowledge. It collapses when purpose is replaced by pressure. If we want safer patients, healthier teams, and systems we can be proud of, we don't start with new technology, new policies, or new checklists. We start with culture, because culture determines behavior, and behavior determines outcomes. When systems silence the people who care most, the damage doesn't begin with patients. It begins with the people who show up every day determined to help. In healthcare, those people are often men and women who were taught that competence means control, that strength means endurance, and that emotions should never interfere with performance. The system reinforces this belief by rewarding obedience and output, not honesty and vulnerability. Over time, caring becomes dangerous because speaking up feels like a risk rather than a responsibility. Men in particular are conditioned to carry pressure quietly, and healthcare systems unknowingly exploit that conditioning. Many men in medicine learn early that asking for help is interpreted as weakness, that uncertainty threatens credibility, and that emotional fatigue must be hidden behind professionalism. From a male psychological lens, silence becomes a survival strategy. From a female perspective, that same silence often appears as emotional distance, disengagement, or even arrogance, when in reality it is the weight of unspoken responsibility pressing inward. Women experience this silence differently, often sensing the emotional cost long before it is acknowledged. Many women in healthcare recognize the cracks forming beneath stoicism, watching colleagues withdraw, become rigid, or lose empathy under pressure. From their perspective, the system doesn't just fail men, it isolates them, discouraging the very conversations that could restore trust and connection. What looks like resilience is often unresolved stress with nowhere safe to go. When a culture discourages honest expression, it forces men to choose between integrity and acceptance. They are praised for endurance while slowly disconnecting from purpose, family, and self-awareness. Women witnessing this pattern are left to compensate emotionally or confront systems that resist change. The result is not just burnout, but a quiet erosion of teamwork, empathy, and psychological safety that no policy can repair. Burnout is not a personal failure, yet healthcare cultures treat it as one. In environments where endurance is celebrated and exhaustion is normalized, men are often praised for pushing through while quietly breaking down. From a male psychological perspective, burnout feels like a loss of identity because many men tie their worth to competence, reliability, and control. Admitting depletion threatens the image they believe keeps them respected, so they suppress the signal instead of responding to it. Men experience burnout internally long before it becomes visible externally. They become more withdrawn, less expressive, and increasingly rigid in their thinking, not because they care less, but because emotional shutdown feels safer than exposure. Women working alongside them often sense this shift early, noticing reduced collaboration, impatience, or emotional absence. From a female perspective, burnout doesn't look like weakness. Looks like someone carrying more than they were ever meant to carry alone. Healthcare systems misinterpret these signs because they are designed to measure output, not humanity. When a man keeps showing up despite exhaustion, the system rewards him with more responsibility, reinforcing the belief that silence equals strength. Women frequently see the danger in this pattern, understanding that sustained pressure without relief doesn't create resilience, it creates fracture. Yet the system rarely listens to these observations, dismissing them as emotional rather than essential. When burnout is ignored, it doesn't disappear, it transforms. It becomes errors, detachment, resentment, and eventually loss of purpose. Men often internalize this transformation as personal inadequacy, while women witness its impact on teams, patients, and culture. Burnout is the system speaking through the human body, revealing where expectations have exceeded capacity and where care has been replaced by endurance. Efficiency without empathy doesn't just undermine patient care, it erodes the very soul of healthcare. In a system that prioritizes speed, quotas, and the bottom line, the human element is often the first casualty. For men, this focus on efficiency feels like a necessary sacrifice. They've been conditioned to excel in environments where results speak louder than feelings. The faster they work, the more competent they seem. But what's lost in this equation is the ability to truly listen, to connect, and to understand. For men in these systems, the drive for efficiency can feel like the only way to prove their worth, even if it's at the expense of empathy. Women in healthcare often perceive this disconnect more sharply. While men may feel validated by their efficiency, women can sense the growing void, the patients left unheard, the colleagues burned out, and the culture hollowed out. From a woman's perspective, it's not that men lack empathy, it's that they were pressured into believing that efficiency is the sole metric of success. They are caught in a system that teaches them to act quickly, not thoughtfully, to provide solutions, not understanding. Women often take on the emotional labor of recognizing and compensating for this gap, but they too are left drained in the process. When empathy is treated as a secondary concern, everyone suffers, including those who seem most immune to it. Men often internalize the belief that to be effective, they must suppress their own emotional responses, even if those responses might be the key to better care. Women, meanwhile, are left to navigate a system that values productivity over connection, where empathy is seen as an afterthought. Both are working within a culture that has made efficiency its idol, but the true cost is measured not in dollars or minutes saved, but in the relationships and trust that are eroded. Psychological safety is not a luxury in healthcare. It is a necessity that can mean the difference between life and death, in environments where men are expected to perform without error and push through pressure without complaint. Psychological safety is often the first casualty. Men, conditioned to embody strength and stoicism, frequently feel that vulnerability or questioning authority equates to failure. The culture rewards silence, punishes hesitation, and expects perfect decision-making under impossible stress. As a result, men often choose to suppress their concerns, hiding errors or doubts rather than speaking up. This self-imposed isolation undermines their ability to learn, grow, and ultimately protect the very lives they are sworn to care for. From a woman's perspective, this silence can be even more dangerous. Women are often attuned to emotional cues and team dynamics, recognizing when someone is struggling or withholding important information. They see the cost of a culture where men feel they cannot admit to being overwhelmed or unsure. While men may internalize the pressure to perform perfectly, women can often feel the weight of unspoken fears, noticing when decisions are being made based on pride rather than safety. In this environment, it's not just the individual who suffers, but the entire team, as a lack of psychological safety breeds mistrust and fear. Psychological safety means being able to speak up without fear of judgment or retribution. But in a culture that prizes efficiency and success above all else, this principle is often sidelined. Men, caught between the demands of the system and their own psychological needs, become increasingly isolated in their struggles. Women, too, feel the strain of working in a system that dismisses emotional well-being in favor of performance metrics. When psychological safety is absent, the team is fractured, and the cost is paid in broken trust, reduced collaboration, and compromised patient care. Good people don't fail in healthcare because they lack skill or commitment. They fail because the culture makes it impossible to remain whole. Many men enter this field with a deep sense of duty, believing their role is to fix, protect, and endure. When the environment rewards sacrifice without support, these men internalize the belief that struggling means they are not strong enough. From a male psychological perspective, the culture slowly teaches them to detach from their emotions so they can survive the daily pressure. Men often adapt to bad cultures by becoming quieter, more rigid, and less emotionally available, mistaking emotional shutdown for professionalism. They stop asking questions, stop challenging unsafe norms, and stop trusting their instincts because the system has taught them that compliance is safer than honesty. Women working alongside them often witness this transformation with concern, seeing capable, compassionate colleagues become distant and hardened. From a woman's perspective, the issue is not individual weakness, but a system that discourages humanity in favor of control. Bad cultures also force women into impossible positions. They are often expected to carry emotional awareness, team cohesion, and patient reassurance while navigating the same relentless pressure. Many women recognize the psychological toll on men, sensing the suppressed frustration and silent exhaustion beneath the surface. When men withdraw emotionally, women are left to compensate or confront dysfunction, frequently being labeled as difficult or overly sensitive for pointing out what the culture refuses to see. In unhealthy environments, both men and women are pushed away from their natural strengths. Men are discouraged from expressing vulnerability or uncertainty, while women are discouraged from trusting their emotional intelligence and lived experience. Over time, good people begin to doubt themselves rather than the system, assuming they are the problem instead of recognizing the environment is misaligned with human needs. The culture normalizes stress, minimizes warning signs, and frames burnout as a personal issue rather than a structural one. When bad cultures persist, they don't just exhaust individuals, they erode trust, compassion, and moral clarity. Men lose connection to purpose as endurance replaces meaning, while women lose faith that empathy will ever be valued as much as efficiency. The system continues to function on the surface, but beneath it, the people holding it together are slowly unraveling. Healing the system must come before asking individuals to sacrifice more of themselves. Healthcare has long relied on the quiet endurance of men who believe their value lies in how much pressure they can withstand. From a male psychological perspective, responsibility becomes identity, and stepping back feels like abandonment rather than self-preservation. The system benefits from this mindset, extracting effort without providing space for recovery, reflection, or emotional honesty. Men often respond to systemic dysfunction by trying harder instead of speaking up. They work longer hours, carry more risk, and suppress doubt because they've been conditioned to believe that strength is proven through tolerance of pain. Women frequently recognize the danger in this pattern, observing how men absorb pressure until it reshapes their personalities. From a woman's perspective, the system doesn't just overwork men, it isolates them, leaving little room for connection, vulnerability, or shared accountability. Healing requires redesigning cultures so psychological safety is built into daily behavior, not treated as an optional initiative. Men need environments where questioning decisions is seen as responsibility, not rebellion, and where admitting limits is viewed as wisdom rather than weakness. Women often advocate for these shifts because they understand that trust, communication, and emotional awareness prevent harm before it occurs. Yet systems resistant to change dismiss these insights as soft, ignoring how deeply they influence outcomes. When systems begin to heal, roles begin to realign with human nature. Men regain permission to lead through presence rather than dominance, and to protect life without sacrificing their own mental health. Women are no longer forced to carry invisible emotional labor just to keep teams functional. Both benefit from cultures that value dialogue over hierarchy and learning over blame. True healing shifts accountability from individuals to environments. Instead of asking why someone broke, the system begins asking why breaking was inevitable. Men stop internalizing failure as personal weakness, and women stop feeling responsible for holding together structures designed without empathy. The focus moves from endurance to sustainability, from output to impact, and from silence to shared responsibility.